Hello, Brick Sculptors, and welcome back to Brick Sculpt. This is Trees, Tips, Tricks, and Techniques, and today we're going to show you how to build some of my favorite trees. Now, if you watch my videos regularly, I've done some of these builds in the past, but it's been a very long time, and the channel's grown quite a bit, so I want to share some of these in a newer video, along with some other trees I've done more recently. The first tree I'm going to build is kind of a younger, smaller tree. We're going to start with a simple 1x1 round plate with a hole in it. Now, to get a thinner trunk, I like to use candlesticks. They're a really nice size for a smaller tree. Next step, I'm going to take some of these 3 branch pieces, flower stems, whatever you want to call them, and I'm going to put 2 of them on here. Now, in observing smaller, younger trees, I've realized that the branches don't really stick out, but instead they kind of curve upward until they get heavier and then they start to fall out. So I'm going to build this as a younger tree where the branches are going to curve upward. And the way I do that is I use flex tubing. Now, this is not genuine Lego flex tubing. It's also black. In this tree, I'm going to use green, but I didn't have a roll of that handy. And this is not genuine. I buy this from Bevan's Bricks. He sells it at $1.50 a foot, and it works awesome, and you would really probably not know it's not Lego. The green doesn't match perfectly, but you'll see in this tree it looks good nonetheless. So I cut my flex tubing into smaller sections like this, and then I just start to put leaves on them. And these are the 3-leaf pieces in bright green. And depending on the length, we'll determine how many I put on there. On this shorter piece, I'm going to put 5. And on the last one, I like to put a green flower on the top just to finish the end. So there's my first branch, and we can stick it on there. Next, we'll do this longer one. And you can kind of space these out if you want your tree to be a little thinner. You can clump them together in pairs of 2. Sometimes that gives a nice little texture to it. Or you can just evenly space them and make it consistent throughout. And you can stagger them left and right. And there's our second one. Now let's pop a bunch more on. And you can see how these will kind of just curve upward. And I think it looks pretty darn realistic, especially when I get the next layer on. So after that, we're going to put another brown candlestick in. These fit right in the middle of these 3 branch pieces. And then we'll take another one of these 3 branch pieces and put branches on it like this. That'll go on top. Another brown candlestick down the middle. And the topper here is a green 3-branch piece with a piece of flex tube coming right out the top, and just the same technique on all those branches. And I don't know what you think, but to me, that's a very nicely well-rounded tree. Now the next one I'm going to build uses a little different technique, and it's going to look like a little bit more of a mature tree. Still a smaller tree, not massive, but a little bit older. We're going to use these brown Technic connectors, and I like to take the slot and kind of face them inwards so you don't see them. And I've got these just on a plate and a jumper here so I can get a nice triangular look out of it. Next, we're going to grab some of these trunk pieces, and we're just going to kind of get them all to work kind of together. So the one in front, I'm going to have it weave back through. I'm going to kind of pull these ones forward so they look like one tree trunk when they're all together. The next step, we're going to use some of these pieces here and curve it upward like this. Now it's starting to look like a tree. We got to add some foliage. Just take some of these branch pieces. These are dark green, which I think looks really good with this, but you can use any color. And here I've got 3 of them connected, all kind of in the center. And we're just going to mix it up so they all look a little bit different. These 2 are just both connected right here. And that's a good start, but I think we can do a little better yet. I'm going to add one more of these on this one. When you have 3 of these limb pieces all connected in one spot, you can put a candlestick in it and continue on with your tree to give it a second layer. Next, I'm going to take another leaf piece and one of these brown carrot toppers and just pin this right through here on the top. I got this one going right through the middle, just like that. I think that's a really good looking tree. Next, I'm going to show you my favorite way to do bushes. So my favorite way to do bushes is to use these underwater seaweed or coral type pieces. I put a 1x1 round on the bottom. Now I'm sure someone's going to say it, so I'm just going to point it out. This is going to be a legal technique. And the reason being is, as I put these leaves on here, they're going to fight with some of these angles. But to make this look best, I can kind of force these 3 leaf pieces down onto here and really fill this out with a lot of detail, just sticking a whole bunch of these on here. Now this technique here where you put the leaves directly on this, I think works best like up against a wall or in a cluster of a bunch of them, because it's going to be kind of flat. You'll see at the end here, and this is the part that's totally illegal, is working these down past these elbows. But I buy these specifically just for this, so if they get a little damaged, it doesn't really bother me because that's all I use them for anyway. It's kind of, to me, it's kind of a poorly detailed piece for anything other than this. I would never really probably put this underwater, maybe, but I don't think it looks the greatest. But for this, I think it looks really good. And just like that, you've got a bush. And like I said, up against a wall or like a rock like this, really looks good. You can even stack some leaves in front if you want to make it a little fuller. Or if you want to make it fuller yet, this also looks kind of like a small tree. You can do it this way. This one's dark green, but same piece. We can take some of these small branch pieces and do the same thing. Force them down onto it. And with these, you can kind of go in multiple directions. This lower one, I feel, helps if you do it upside down. You'll have to put the leaves upside down too, but that little knob there is kind of hard to stick one of these on. You can do these in both directions, or I like to do 2 of these backed up to each other, so you have a second side on the bush, because it's hard to get it super full on just one of these pieces. But forcing these on here gives you a ton of room to work with as far as filling this out with leaves. And I'm sorry if you're a purist and this is way too illegal for you. If it hurts to watch this, please skip forward. But what a good looking little tree or bush. And if you want to take it to the next level, some people don't like the 3 leaf pieces. They're one of my favorite pieces. I think they just add so much detail. Some people I think it looks a little too much like Friends or maybe a little too cartoony. But I think it's one of the best pieces Lego ever produced. It just looks so much more full and detailed with them. So I always use them, but I know not everyone likes that. But you can fill up each branch with these and really get a nice full looking tree or bush. And just like that, you have a super full looking bush. I'm going to place this one over here. And you can put a whole bunch of these in a row and make a really big line of bushes. You can put 2 of them back to back and make a big round bush. You can grow these super tall. You can even add another one of these on top and keep going with it. Endless possibilities you can do with that seaweed piece. Now, in a recent video, I had somebody ask me how I make my larger oak trees. So I'll show you. I use these pieces, these snot pieces, that have studs on 4 sides. Whoops. And I back them up to each other like this. And I make a column like that. Now I've placed some roots down here that I can build off of. But then what I do is I just add a bunch of greebling, if you will, plates and tiles and some round elements and some crooked elements and just make it look like a tree. And the end result is kind of like this. I've got some dark brown, I've got some reddish brown, there's some even old school brown in there, just a mixture of round pieces and flat pieces, studded pieces and smooth pieces, and I put some thicker stuff down here at the base because those are going to blend right into my roots when I place it. And I've been doing this technique for a while, and I really like how this comes out. It looks like a large old oak tree, something with a lot of substance to it, unlike these thinner trees here. So once I get that on, then I got to build the top. And there's lots of different methods for building a top for this, but I'm going to show you the way I like to do it. In this particular tree, I used these guys, and I put 4 of those around the top. Just like that. This gave me an excellent start to build off of. So now I can take a branch piece, put some leaves on it, and build it out from there. I can also take one of these brown 1x5 rounds and lock it in, where I can connect here on top, and it sticks out and connects in the middle of the branch. This will give me that undergrowth I need. And then I'll take a 1x1 round. These are like my most commonly used parts for plants. I've got one of these bigger branch pieces covered in leaves. I'm going to take a smaller branch piece with a couple leaves on it, stick it underneath, and then I use these reddish brown sticks to connect these, giving it a super strong connection. And I'll take another one and put it on top, do the same thing, and then I'm going to connect it here to my 1x1 and pin it in just the same. And this gives me a lot of articulation where I can move this branch however I want and still keep it very strong on the tree. I'm going to zoom out a little bit because this tree is going to get big. So I can take more of these branches and just stick them on all the same in all directions. And again, I can use that articulation. I can make it a little tighter and closer, or I can really spread it out if I want it to kind of take up a lot of space. Now that's just the first layer, so yes, it looks a little thin right now. But let's add some more on top. So when I build up from here, I'll typically just use 2x2 round bricks and or plates. And to add some stability, I'll often put a rod, or a bar, sorry, right up the middle. And that'll just kind of hold everything together. Now these pieces work really well for trees because it gives you several different directions to connect off of. And I put one of those right on top. Another piece that I absolutely love for trees, which I did a whole video on. If you haven't seen it, I'll link it here, but that's these 1x2 with round sides and hollow studs. And that allows the tree to have more articulation. And so I can move these into kind of the more bare areas to get a nice even spread of branches. And then I'm going to do basically the same thing, and you just pick how full you want the tree. So here's a bunch of branch pieces connected, all pinned together so they're really strong and covered in 3-leaf pieces. And these ones I'm going to kind of connect here to let them spread out sideways a little bit. Not as long as this bottom one, but a little bit wider. And we're just going to connect them right on these 1x2s. It might be easier to pull these off. And then, again, we're just going to pin them together like that. And with this technique, super strong connection. So you can move this in any direction you want to articulate your tree. And here's another one. It's okay if they touch each other. Trees like to overlap themselves a lot. I should mention, you don't have to have this piece with the 4 prongs on it. You can put these 1x2s directly in the central trunk coming out, but you'll probably want to do another 1x2 on top of it so it articulates more. I use both methods. If you have this piece, great. If not, there's a workaround. The nice thing about trees is if you have so much coverage like this one does, you really don't see what's going on in the middle so much by the time you're done because the tree is so full. And then we're going to put some more 2x2 plates and bricks on there. Then I just did the same thing over again. Well, this time I didn't use the reddish brown 1x2s in there. I just put them straight on here because up here I'm not going to articulate it near as much. Can still move it around, but I don't need near as much as these bigger pieces down here. And for the topper, just some 1x1 round plates and bricks, or a brick, and then a bar up the middle, just connecting some more branches, and there's our top. And that is a super full old oak tree. This next tree is by far my favorite because it took me so long to figure this out. I've been obsessing over Lego pine trees for a very long time, and the reason being is I've never seen them that I really like. I've seen some good ones, I've seen some really good ones, but I've never seen some that are like next level good. And I was super excited when I made this because I feel like, to me, it's the best I've seen. And I might be being a little bit braggy with that, I'm sorry, but I'm very proud of this design and I think it's a really good pine tree. So I got some 2x2 bricks and tiles for a base. And this is the pine tree I did my ultimate pine tree video on, because I do believe it is the ultimate pine tree. Next I have a bar piece. On that bar piece I have stuck a 2x2 tile with 1 stud and 2 Travis bricks. On these Travis bricks I use these minifig posing pieces. I've got 4 on the first level and just 2 on the second level. And I did put some cheese slopes on here just as filler, so it didn't look empty. And that goes right on top. Now, using a similar method to the oak tree, I'm going to take branch pieces, but I'm going to cover them in the 3-leaf flower pieces. Now, most of these just have 1, but in the center I have some that have 2 to give it a little more depth. Up top, I don't put the branch pieces because this is going to get covered. I put these small reddish brown sticks. If you ever looked inside of a pine tree, there's a lot of dead sticks in the middle. It gets really sharp and wood-like in the middle there. And using the same pinning technique, I can put a branch on here and pin it in with that reddish brown piece, just like I did on the branches over here. And then we can work our way around. Now this next layer just has 2, and we're going to use that to kind of fill this tree out. So we're going to push these guys together on both sides. And that'll give us a little bit of a gap on each of these sides. And in that gap, I'm going to use some of these small branch pieces connected together up on this next tier, and they'll kind of come down and cover over it. And when you do this and pin these together with these reddish brown pins, these are pretty strong. They're not as strong as those, but they're on there pretty good. It takes a lot to knock these off once you do that with that connection. So now you can see a pine tree starting, and we're just going to have to start layering it up. So the next layer, same thing. I got a 1x1 round brick in reddish brown. I've got a Travis brick, and I've got those minifig posing pieces. I am going to kind of stagger this a little bit, and we're just going to repeat. Now in this one, I don't want these to come down near as far, so I'm not going to attach them at the top. I'm going to attach them with one of these side pieces. And the way I do that is I use one of these brown carrot stick toppers through it and connect that right in here. And that'll just make it come down just a little bit shorter than this one, so it doesn't overlap it too much. If you ever built an artificial Christmas tree, this is kind of the method you do. You build it in a circle, and they just get shorter as you go up. Just like that. Now we have another layer on there, and it's starting to look really good. Then we're going to take another couple of reddish brown round bricks. Another bar with a Travis brick on it. And there's our next layer. Now in this one, I'm going to move the pinning element even further down. So we started here, and then here, and now we're down to here. And this one I'm not going to have any reddish brown sticks on it, because at this point you're going to start to see them too much. So I'm just going to do the flower pieces. And at the top I put quite a few of them because I need to blend it into the next layer, which is going to be using a different technique. So I kind of have extra at the top to help more seamlessly blend it with the next layer. And you'll see that in just a second here. And we connect these all the way around. And there we go. Now, once we get up this high, unfortunately, I don't think it's effective to continue the same technique. So we're going to switch it up. And this is a technique that I've seen a lot of people use. And it does look good, but I think it looks better just for the top than to do the whole tree like this. A lot of people do this for the entire tree. And basically what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a stack of Travis bricks, and I do have a bar up the middle just for strength. And we're just going to build outward. On the bottom row, I have a green flower piece, and then 2 of these stems on each one. And we'll just attach those facing outward, making sure to stagger them. And this is just like building an artificial Christmas tree. On the next 2 layers, I just have 2 of these stem pieces. And on the top layer, just 1. And you'll notice I use black on the Travis bricks. You can get them in brown, but they're very expensive. And because they're reddish brown, they're prone to cracking. So I don't want to spend all that money for something that might break. And this is where having these stacked extra high helps, because you just kind of fill those in the spaces here. And it makes a really seamless transition there to the top. And then, of course, the very top, this is a technique most people use. Take a whole bunch of these, stagger them, and upside down right on the top. And there is my ultimate pine tree. Well, I hope you guys liked this video. I hope you learned a couple things. Hopefully you can use these techniques in your own cities and MOCs. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, because I'm going to do more videos just like this in the future. And we'll see you next time.